says going live before, and then we're actually live, then we are live officially. So, hey everybody, it is Bob Cooney, and I am here today with my good friend Phillip from VR Nerds in, where the fuck are you from? We're in Germany? I keep getting it wrong. Are you
Hamburg, Germany.
Hamburg.
Second biggest but best city in Germany.
It's next to Berlin?
Next to Berlin.
Yeah. All the people in Munich watching are going to be pissed now, right?
Absolutely.
So is that where they invented the hamburger?
That's what the legendary story says. Yes.
Okay.
Well, I am a hamburger since I'm from Hamburg.
You are a hamburger. All right, we'll pour some ketchup.
Bad joke.
Pour some ketchup on me. Here in San Francisco, actually, and we're both gathered for the VR Arcade Conference, which was actually kind enough to give us a room that we're not using. Because I thought it would be a little too loud, but really good event this year. It's hosted at the Microsoft Reactor, kind of a combination. Last year, Microsoft did a their first kind of location-based VR conference in May, and then they combined with Jeremy Lamb's VR Arcade Conference, which I think this is like the fifth year they've.
I think it's the fourth
year they've done it.
I've attended every one so far.
Yeah, me too. I think I might have missed one. Yeah. Anyway, so and Phillip was nice enough to join us live in the same room.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. And so let's start with should we just start with a video? Do you think?
Let's go ahead.
Let's just start. I've got a video of what Tower Tag is. I want to get into. I think we're going to do this one, right? Yeah. So here we go. This is a quick video. So I first found Tower Tag at VR LA.
That's right.
Almost 2 years ago now.
No, 1 year. No,
there's no way.
2 ways. No, it's 2 years ago at this event, Jeremy Lamb's VR AK World event in Mountain View.
Okay.
That's our first showing. Back then I had Prototype with me. Very poor showing. It was a little show, so it was not a professional show. So everyone crammed in a little place. All people had tracking issues because you can't do that with so many people. And I brought a version of Tower Tag. That's when we tried first. And in LA last year, that's when we released it in May 2nd.
Okay.
At VR LA.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. And it just seems like that was like really 2 years ago. So
it's been a ride though.
Yeah. And when I did it, when I played it, like that first impression to me was these guys actually know how to design a competitive VR game. And when I started chatting to, and I don't know how many of you guys know my background, but I started in the laser tag business, one of the first laser tag companies. And so laser tag, I'm actually got pretty good at it. I played, I don't know how many thousands and thousands and thousands of games and have now played a lot of VR. And so I got into this and immediately felt really comfortable in it and picked up the mechanics really quickly. I was playing with my friend Andre Lawless, and I think I beat him like 10-1 or something in a really short game. He didn't have much fun, which is one of the problems with competitive player versus player. We'll talk about how do you deal with that. But but I immediately knew that these people, whoever designed this game, had played some laser tag. And then we started chatting and share everybody your background, how you.
It's the other way around for us. Like when you played it first, then after you got the HMD off your face, I said, "Well, you played a couple rounds of laser tag, and I can tell." And that's the way we designed the game for that specific purpose. That is kind of substitute the laser tag 2.0 of nowadays, right? And I have an extended background in the same industry. I've been a professional paintball player for 10 plus years, and I worked in the paintball and laser tag industry for that said 10 plus years before we started VR Nerds, before we started our VR adventure. So yeah, we took amazing game design from my co-founder Nico. He had some crazy ideas about this game mechanics, and then this idea of bringing laser tag and paintball mechanics and feeling into VR.
Yeah.
Saving space, having a smaller footprint, etc. And then Tower Tag was born.
Yeah. So one of the things that I really loved about Tower Tag was the locomotion, and we're going to get into a whole bunch of stuff. We're going to talk about VR and esports and competitive, and we're going to talk about being an entrepreneur and some of the challenges that come with that. So this one we're going to go pretty deep, but like one of the things I really loved about Tower Tag was the locomotion. Was one of the challenges in VR is how do you move from place to place, and people are using this teleportation thing to go from platform to platform in different means and similar games, and teleportation works because it eliminates the motion sickness for most people, but it's super counterintuitive, and it doesn't feel natural.
That's right. And
so what you guys did, which I love, is you created this super intuitive. You shoot like the golden lasso from Wonder Woman.
Exactly. It's like a golden lasso. You're right.
And then you pull yourself across to the next platform.
Right.
And that motion of shooting and then pulling just tricks your brain, and then you move to the next platform. And so it creates a physicality that I love. It creates an immersion that's really, really deep. And there's no motion sickness at all. And you guys know I'm a big believer in building experiences that don't make you want to puke.
Well, to motion sickness, right?
Yeah.
So the top challenge was, how can we avoid me personally to get motion sick? Because if I don't get it, no one gets it.
That's how I feel.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm that sensitive. Yeah. And when we wanted to do a paintball/laser tag sort of game, a competitive game like that, that was the main challenge. And we thought it needs to be free roaming. That's 5 years back, right? So we couldn't do it. We couldn't get it done because technology-wise and gameplay-wise, it just didn't make sense to us.
Yeah.
Right. And it just took a while until, my other co-founders, engineer and designer both, they played around with some ideas, and then all of a sudden said, well, what do you think about this lasso? We tried it, and it worked. And then obviously I needed a little more trickery to get it done the proper way. But once we got it done, everyone was amazed and said, well, no one got motion sickness ever, not a single person that we know of, out of all the thousands of players. And we don't know actually, how we could.
Literally, it was just something that one of your designers stumbled upon, and
while testing through different things, that's just the thing that stuck with us and did the best job.
Yeah. So, and now the other thing that I noticed about the game right away was the spectation mode was really good. You guys were one of the first, I think, to understand how important spectator mode was to creating the context for players watching the game, and you guys have all heard me talk about how converting spectators to ticket buyers is one of the biggest challenges in VR. Yeah. What was your thinking behind it?
Also, we all know, even though we love VR and we love playing VR and we love, bringing new people into VR, when you do it, you kind of look off, right? You have the thing on, you do something, no one actually knows what you do. And I heard people say they don't want to do it in public because they want to look stupid in front of other people. So that's why we thought we definitely need something that looks cool, that makes you look badass instead of stupid, right? And decision done. We needed a spectator mode that makes you look cool and makes everyone else understand what you're actually doing. Yeah. And not just doing a pantomimic movement and without context.
So that's really interesting, because that's not something I've heard before, which is that for you, the origin of the spectator mode partly was because of people's feeling of awkwardness in playing the game, which we're still hearing now. And I think that I know one of the operators of Minority Media's Chaos Jump recently just put, Mark Weiss, I think it was, put a curtain around the 4-player trust system. And he put like these automated curtain thing. You push a button when the game starts and the curtains close. It's really theatrical and dramatic, and his revenue went up, and it was really, really interesting. So it's fascinating that that's still, and I think Sebastian just chimed in. He's having the same thing. That's why they're using some private rooms, because people don't want to feel awkward.
No, that's exactly what they do. And I mean, with us, with Tower Tag, with the gun holster that we use and the spectator mode, so people have context on what you're doing. They can see whether you're winning or losing, or you're badass or not. So in that case, we have some partners that put Tower Tag in the front window or something of the shop, because we purposely make people that play tower tag look badass, but you have to do it.
Is that your tagline? Play tower tag, look badass.
It kind of.
It could be.
Definitely. It's I mean, it is kind of badass.
Yeah.
It looks cooler than other VR games.
Yeah.
The motion that you do, having a gun here and dodging, and shooting back, and and ducking.
Yeah.
It definitely looks cooler than other games.
So I'm gonna run another video, which I know isn't your favorite. It's an older one, but just to give people, because I think you've got. Let's see if you've got. Some people are asking about spectator mode, and I mean maybe do a little bit of narrative over this one too.
Absolutely. So that's the video where you can actually get the context about what you do in real life.
And I want to talk about the towers too, and that haptic element. Each of the platforms that you teleport to have the tower literally for hiding, right? And when you build the tower in it, you don't have to have it. You have that. You have to find it.
So that's the main.
Here's the teleportation we're talking about. You pull yourself from one to another. So you see the rope shoot over. Yeah, and you don't really get that sweaty, by the way. That's just
what he did. It was a hot summer. And he didn't actually play, right? Obviously.
Yeah. There
was nothing on the screen, black screen. I wasn't even powered.
He was just
doing the motions that he wanted to show in the game all over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's what it's about.
Yeah, and so let's talk about the structure too, because I've been egging you on, or encouraging you, maybe is a better to come up with a turnkey version of this.
Yeah.
So right now the way you get tower tag is you license. Talk about the license.
Right. Yeah.
What is it?
So the easiest way to get it is just online, right? You get a license. You can download the game, you install it. You get a license key. You put it in your game. You're done. Right.
Yep.
And the next upgrade is you get the gun holsters that we get them from our manufacturer.
When you say gun holsters, what does that mean?
That means it's a gun sleeve, so it's not a replacement for your controller, but you take the original HD Vive controller and you put it in the gun sleeve, and we modified it to suit our game.
Yep.
It's shorter than the original version, so you can one hand holding the gun, right? That's the first level of immersion after the game itself, and then after that, if you want more, you can put the tower in it.
Okay. Now there's some now right now what's the licensing model? So what's it cost?
Yeah.
How do you do it?
We do annual licenses only at the moment. So you pay one. It is we have a pack of 6 licenses for 6 booths, which is I believe $9,600
per year
US per year.
Okay, and it's max 3-on-3.
It's 3-on-3,
right? Which is where you would go.
You can get single licenses, obviously, for about $1,800 each.
Yeah, but why would you?
Why would you?
You wouldn't do one. That would be bad.
Well, I mean, you could. We
just zapping around.
Well, we just. I don't want to advertise, but we just added bots to it, and they're pretty good. Really? I mean, they're probably better than you are.
All right.
And you're very good.
Wow.
You're very good.
All right.
So
I feel a challenge.
Yeah, and then you could potentially. I mean, one of our best venues, best running venues, is in New York, VR World. Hi, Tommy. They run Tag back to back from open doors to the late night.
Yep.
And they only have 2 booths.
Yeah.
But if they wanted to, they could add bots into the game, so people don't only play 1v1, but they have like a.
So could you play co-op 2 against bots?
Split and
or you play 1-on-1 plus bots.
Both ways. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's really interesting. So, and I think that one of the challenges for arcades, and by the way, Tommy Goodwin's going to be on this webinar in a few weeks. So. And they run VR World in New York, which is one of the biggest and longest running VR arcades, certainly in America, if not the world. And so that's going to be a really interesting one. And but one of the things I hear back from VR arcade owners is they don't want to pay an annual license because they don't want to dedicate a booth to a game, and they feel committed like they have to if they're paying, $2,000 a year or whatever, that they have to dedicate that whole. Are there I can do the math in my head, but do you have the math around that and why that's just that's a false narrative?
Well, because
it feels like a false narrative to me.
Obviously, we have all different sorts of clients or partners. We call them partners when they dedicate the space, and we try to advise all our clients to do that. And because you do double, triple, quadruple times the revenue when you do so, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not advocating, I'm not Devil's advocate speaking against all systems that offer different content, but I'm just telling you, If you dedicate some space to specific content, when it's good content, it's easier to market for yourself. It's easier to advertise.
And people come in, they see people playing it all the time, so they want to play it.
They know what they're coming for.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what we do. So I can tell you, everyone is doing much better when they dedicate booths to Tower Tag.
Yep.
And then we have standalone locations too.
Yeah.
Like about a half a dozen worldwide, and they do best.
Yeah.
Because they just market it not as a VR arcade, but as in like,
So it says Tower Tag on the door, and you come in, you're playing Tower Tag. So let's talk about that lot. Like, so you said how many of those are there? And
well, when the next one opens, it must be half a dozen, like 5 or 6 now.
And what are your learnings from that? Like, how many is it? Do they do 6? Do they do 12? Do they do more?
Yeah, 4 minimum.
Okay.
4 is the minimum. Everyone, I believe the last one I have 4 just closed. I went to a bigger one, so they can have 6. Well, no, I believe 8.
Okay.
Sorry. I think that's the one in Israel.
Where in Australia?
Well, soon. No,
city?
No, I said Israel.
Israel.
Tel
I thought you said
Australia.
Tel
Aviv in Israel.
Gotcha.
Someone is starting something very soon in Australia to also dedicated booth space.
Yep.
He's doing a little bit of not room scale, free roam, and also Tower Tag.
Okay, cool.
Also, smart decision. He doesn't have plenty of
That's not
content.
the guy I introduced you to, is it?
No. Yeah. I will introduce you.
All right, cool.
We can talk a little bit about Australia. Yeah. So the more you dedicate the booth to, you can dedicate your marketing specifically to that, what the content that you're running at, and the better your business is going.
Yeah. And do you have numbers? Like, can you share some average numbers of what the different modes tend to generate?
I mean, it's a huge gap, right?
Yeah.
The smallest, like the worst running business is doing between 500 and 1,000 euros a month with the product. Which barely gives him a ROI at all within a year.
Yep.
But he's running it within 120 other titles.
Right.
So you springboard with all the titles, not curated, and then just threw Tower Tag in the mix.
And is Tower Tag in Springboard, or is it?
Well, that's a start button. It's not integrated yet.
Yeah.
We're working on that, but just make it easier to handle. Not actually booking it through Springboard, just operating
for managing it.
Yeah. And then the best running location that we have that is specifically, purposely opened for Tower Tag, they do about 3,200 US every day.
Okay.
And that's Tower Tag only.
Yeah.
So you see, it's a huge gap between thousands a month.
But there's a lot of variables between between that. It's not just the fact that they're dedicating a booth. Like, there's a million variables: location, marketing budget, staffing, operations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So those are the outliers. But what's the averages? Like do you know? Like,
I believe we opened just to check on how operational really works, and to prove a point, we opened a venue ourselves in the bottom story of our new office building.
Yep. We've
been running it since last month, and we projected to do 10 grand this month out of $120 marketing budget in Facebook.
And that's a 6-player.
6-player, 3
10 grand a month.
Yeah, it is
freestanding.
We have exactly. It's Tower Tag only at the moment. We have Workout Wednesday. That's a cheap day where you can play for I think it's like 15 euros or something for half an hour. So let's bring in the people, and we spend 120 euros on like slightly pushing it on Facebook. That's it.
And what's the consumer pricing model? What are people charging to play Tower Tag? How long's the game?
Yeah, so we advise people on trying to charge a per player.
Okay. How long are the games?
Well, you choose, right? If it's 7 minutes, it's $7.
Okay, so the operator can set because it's just a down.
No, you can go between 2 and I think we shortened it down to 15 minutes. It used to be between 2 and 20 minutes, but 20 minutes is way too long.
Yeah.
Some people ran 20-minute games, and we don't like it too much because then the end consumer will be exhausted and it will fall down at us. So we said, let's set it between 2 and 10.
It feels like 7 to 10 minutes.
7 minutes are very good.
Yeah.
I mean, after 7 minutes, we'll be exhausted a little bit. You take 2 minutes off, play another round, take 2 minutes off, play another round. You're done with your half an hour. You play, you're good.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cool. And so $1 a minute in what are the rates? How much have you seen somebody get away with charging? And because I'm all about raising prices. So
double what we advise.
Really?
$2 a minute.
So you've seen $2 a minute. Yes. What kind of location was that in?
Dedicated booth space in a mall.
Okay.
Yeah.
In what country? Can you say?
United States.
Okay. Yeah. We love big cities.
Just so to say, I wouldn't say that it is working the best in big cities. Through all our partners that are located in big cities or in countryside,
Yep.
it's averaging like the same everywhere.
What's the longest running location you have, and what are you seeing as far as like revenue trends over time? Are they, because this is something that, you know, there's a bit of a narrative going around. It's like, oh, you open big, and then you know, the business peaks and doesn't grow. And one of the things that I'm seeing is in really good experiences that drive high virality is this constant growth over time. What are you seeing?
So I will give you two examples. One is fellow Germans. They started, I believe they were our very first partners to open VR Arcade Lounge. They used to have a single location with, I believe, 4 seats, and then they opened 2 other stores last year. Like since they started with TowerTech, they were out we had a pre-sales going on before we publicly, you know, launched the game. They joined back then, and they opened 2 more stores after that. And obviously, they added TowerTech to every venue. Right? So that's going good. That's the longest running, I believe. And then I have another example from our longest running outside of Germany, which must be Joypolis in Tokyo. And ever since they started with 2 sets of 4 from the get-go. And last time I checked is 2 months ago. It's a very slow Saturday, not too much going on in the amusement park, but TowerTech had a 1-hour queue, and was, you know, from opening to closing, it was 100% capacity for one year now. Yeah.
Are you seeing though any, like, do you have statistics or numbers or metrics that show, like, you know, average revenue growth per location over time? Because my theory is, and I'm trying to get people to help me prove this with some real data, and I've got some data certainly from Zero Latency and when I was there, and some counter data from other platforms that aren't seeing it, where, you know, with a viral growth curve, so 70 to 80% of customers who play VR of good attractions hear about it word of mouth, right? And so that virality curve continues to build, because the bigger your base, the more people you have to talk about it. Whereas some games I'm seeing, and I'm talking to operators, they're seeing this initial peak in the first month, and then it's just straight lines. And what that's telling me is those games aren't really as good. And
then they start adding TowerTech. That's now the bragging rights come in play. That's something I'm really proud of. I believe the most proud I am about this fact is that our partners, they report recurring customer rate about 25%. Back to us, which is amazing. You know that, I mean, actually people that come back specifically for TowerTech.
That's not, the 25% is good, but there's better out there, just so you know. So don't brag too hard.
No, I mean, it comes back that every fourth person comes back and brings a group of another 3 people.
And that's the key. It depends on how you measure that metric too.
You would, I would, if I measure how many people I think
for Zero Latency, on the average of all their locations was about 25% repeat play, which is somewhere as high as 60%, which actually blew us away when we looked at the numbers. We're like, whoa, that's ridiculous. But on the average, I think, and so you're, you know, and I think, you know, Zero Latency is one of the premium VR experiences out there. So to be up there with that level of repeat playability, I think is a testament to the game and how people love it.
Well, I mean, what I think is with the free roam system, which has a higher ticket price, and even though it's a very premium product, as Zero Latency is, when they come back, how often do they come back? Right, the 25 we're reporting, or maybe it's 30, they keep coming back. And for Zero Latency, you can do it twice, maybe 3 times, but after then you don't want to spend another $60, $70.
You'd be surprised how this system actually don't support that. That's conventional wisdom.
Some people do that,
but I've actually looked at the stats, and it actually doesn't support that. You'd be shocked how often people play. Do it. 15, 20, 30 games.
I mean,
that's 30, 40, 50 dollars.
That's what we need, right? We want to set up like an esport, or like laser tag and paintball. It used to be when I started paintball. I went playing paintball every week, right? Twice a week. So that's how we need it.
Absolutely. And I want to get into esports, but I want to just wrap up this. So the fact that you go online, you buy the license, you download it, and you set it up. But then there's the notion of the tower itself. And we've talked about some of the challenges with the tower, creating some occlusion, right? And so materials are important. And so I've been encouraging you to kind of come up with a turnkey solution that product And unfortunately, FEC operators, or fortunately, they're too busy running big businesses to have to deal with designing and in most part, coming up and sourcing their own stuff.
Yeah.
And so what are the challenges around building the towers if you have to do it yourself? And how do you support customers to do that?
Yeah, well, I mean, we try not to sell them too often. And I believe we have less than 10% of our venues, running it with the towers. And we sell them at a very high price. That's because it's just hard to set them up. The tracking is the problem here. If you want to walk around the tower and always want to have tracking, you have to have 4 base stations or 3 at least to track you per
each
player,
okay.
which is a lot.
Well, what about Lighthouse 2.0? Could you do 6 or 8? Because you could do more of those, right?
I mean, in our location, we run it 3 players in a row, all with the tower, and we use 4 base stations to track all this. There's a specific way to set the lighthouses up, the base stations up.
Yep.
And I couldn't explain it to you, so you replicate it.
Okay.
I would have to send someone to do it.
Really?
Probably.
Okay.
Well, probably you get it, probably not. And if it's not working, it's not that good of a product, right? It's only good if it works well.
Right. And so do you recommend people do the tower? This is the part that I really struggle with. It's I believe it creates a better experience, and you tend to, because of the complexity of it, you tend to seem to steer people away from it. And I feel like that's a paradox that's unhealthy.
That's what I try to tell you guys is if you're dedicated to it and if you have dedicated space, you go ahead and do it. We give you the blueprints to build them.
Yeah, you would only do this for a dedicated space.
Yeah.
I mean, putting towers in 10 by 10 cubes with springboard would be silly.
Exactly.
Right.
So if you really want to do it, we help you get it done. We get you the blueprints, we show you how to set it up, but then if you're dedicated, you have to be dedicated. And then you get extra base stations, get it set up correctly, and then it's a perfect product. Yeah.
All right. So one of the questions coming in is around backpacks versus tethered. What do you right now? And I know I played with a haptic vest.
Right.
So what's the kit that you recommend? And then how does that affect the full price of the whole solution?
Well, obviously, the way you played it with an HP backpack was a great experience. That was a VRLA.
Yep.
If you can do it, I would recommend it, right? But we can also, and we will always make sure you can use a tethered as well, because not everyone is able to get these amazing backpacks from HP.
But they are getting what are they, $3,000 now, $3,500?
Something something like this.
And now is it only working with HTC Vive? What are you doing on the hardware side?
So when we built the game, we used HTC Vive. It's built around the idea of the Lighthouse system for tracking, and we need very precise tracking to make sure everything runs smooth in the game. Well, you could obviously use an Oculus Rift as well if we have at least 3 of the sensors going. Yeah. And we are working on another solutions also.
So you're gonna play with some of the inside out stuff, I take it?
We're working on it now. Right. I just had a chat with a engineering director yesterday who's working with Microsoft's inside out tracking, and he gave me some hints how to modify it. Yeah. But I cannot tell when it's working.
You have to make it work.
Yeah.
What about the all-in-ones, that stuff like Quest and Focus and Pico and on the mobile chipsets? Is it just graphics power not enough yet, or what?
I think they're all great devices for VR's breakthrough on the consumer market. Yeah. For us in the location-based entertainment business, I don't believe they are crossing our path very soon.
Okay. Is it just processing power, you think? Or?
I believe that, yes.
Right. How closely do you follow the Qualcomm Snapdragon chipset evolution? Is it that because all these headsets are running the 835, they've already talked about they've announced 855. Yeah. Does the 855 get us there, or is it going to be 5G streaming before you have?
That's what I believe in. Yeah. Right. And we all make believe 5G is around the corner, but guys, it's at least 5 more years.
Well, I think you'll actually see the ability to stream video over 5G locally before all the network infrastructure, and I think you'll see that in the next couple of years.
Yes, but market penetration wise, I would say five more years, and everyone has it everywhere.
Yeah. But I think you'll see it in location. I think right now we're on the beginning of this curve of inside out tracking, and I think inside out tracking for the next 2 to 3 years is going to be the predominant method. And then what's going to happen is you're going to go to inside out wireless mobile with 5G streaming, and probably with the 855 Qualcomm. Yeah. And that'll happen in 3 years. And I think that'll be the next big technology curve. So I'm glad to see you looking at inside
out.
So we've got some questions coming in. One of them is around the licensing model. So just reach out to Phillip or drop me a PM or an email, and I'll introduce you guys. And They'll support you especially if you're going to do the dedicated thing. Now, what are the guns called? Not the guns, the holsters.
There are 120.
And are those? Do those have any haptics in them, or those are just okay? Because you had a haptic one at one.
Yeah,
point.
we had it.
It was too expensive, right?
It was too expensive. We tried to, get a $299 price tag on it.
Yeah.
We couldn't get it.
Have you tried the tactical haptics demo here?
The Happily.
The one from William Provencher, Tactical Haptics.
Oh, Tactical Haptics. Well, I tried that in 2016.
They've got a new. They're getting ready to manufacture. You should check it out. I think that my personal belief is the shear in that when you pull would be really, really effective as a haptic mechanic, and so it'd be worth.
Well, I remember doing this demo in 2016 before we had TowerTech going, and he had a demo which was actually something like a laser lesson.
Yeah. It was.
It was
really effective.
So
they're getting that price down in the very low four figures now for two, really configurable.
Yeah.
Haptic controller.
Here's what we are doing. We would never add something what is four figures, because four figures is more than a license of our game, right? So we added B haptics support for the vests, which works great with TowerTech. You can feel the different shots, the location you shot at. You will feel buzzing.
And what are those? Those are what, $500 each or something like that?
I believe more like 400, 380, 400, something like that. You get, and they're so good to us. Ever since we added them to the game, they give everyone buying them. If you tell them you're using it for TowerTech, you get 20% off.
Cool. There you go. Awesome.
And then also we're working with Happily, which is a young team with a very new gun model with feedback, and they're pushing for a 3-figure price tag. And we're working on having them integrated as well. At least check it out how it works.
And for Timothy's question about the difference between the backpack and the tethered, from my experience, if you're going to do a tethered, you got to have a really good suspension system for the cord. Because it's a very active game, you're moving around a lot within that space, and so you need to make sure you have a really good tethering solution where the cord is suspended and it's not yanking on your head. And because every time you feel that cord yank on your head, immersion's over. Immediately, it's just gone.
But you have to have that for every game, right? Bob?
You have to have that for every game, not just TowerTech, but especially TowerTech because you're so active.
Yeah, but we make sure that you don't go too crazy, like our level design, game design. We watch out.
Well, and let's talk about that. The space is really compact. Each space, how big is it?
2 by 2 meters.
So it's 6 by 6 feet, 6.5 by 6.5 feet. So it's really compact, and that's something that's really amazing to me. And so you can do 6 of these in 2, 4, 6, a little bit of space between, 10 by 8. Was it
12 by 16?
12 by 16 meters.
It's 6 players.
Yeah.
No, 12 by 16.
6 feet. Yeah, 12 by 16 feet for 6 players. It's fascinating. It's really amazing. Something like that. It's small. And so somebody's asked, Sebastian's asking about the glide. We've talked about the reflection off of the towers. What kind of materials do you have to use?
Acrylic glass. And we don't. Well, when we first started in a video, you saw the transparent one. We don't use that anymore because of the reflection. You got it right. It wasn't working too well. You had to set up the base station in a so specific way by the millimeter, and it was off for a couple millimeters. It wasn't working well. So now we're using one which is not reflecting at all. So that's better.
Don't pay attention to me looking at the messages.
No, I'm trying to find my question. Sebastian asked. No, it wasn't Karlsruhe. I believe it was Kassel first, but I'm not 100% sure.
And so what about infrared translucent plastic? So is that just too expensive? Or have you played around with that?
We tried to look into all the solutions, and we obviously tried to get the cheapest one done so we can offer it. And even the cheapest one is so expensive that we don't sell it, but give you the blueprints how to build it.
So you can build it yourself.
So we don't even want to make money on those. We just try it. If we're really dedicated to it, we'll help you get it done.
And for those of you that are interested in a turnkey solution, I've been trying to get Phillip to commit some time and energy to find a manufacturing partner that could put that together for him. He's got some great conceptual designs that he's shown me. It looks fantastic. I think at an FEC, this would be a no-brainer, and I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it like a small footprint, 6, competitive. So let's talk about competition and the competitive nature of this. So this is a competitive player versus player or team versus. Can you do a free-for-all, or is it always?
It's team-based. Always team-based. It's like we play laser tag or paintball.
Now, a lot of laser tag is now free-for-all is the most popular game. I never believed in that. All of our games at Laser Storm were competitive and team-based.
Well, I believe it's going back to team-based also in laser tag. And like team-based and mission-based, that's what they do now.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest in laser tag nowadays, I believe. And we do the same in Tau Tech. So we have a game mode that's like a team deathmatch, right? You beat the other team, you shoot everyone to win a point. Everything is set back for a couple of seconds, and then you play another point, and then you do that for a couple of minutes. Where's the most points on the scoreboard after like 7 minutes, something wins the game.
So basically, a point is awarded when the whole team is eliminated from that round.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I didn't use the word killed on purpose.
Yeah, but I tried to
use eliminated.
Yeah, exactly.
More politically correct.
And then we have this other game mode, what I believe will be the core game mode in the future of Tower Tag, which is a mode where you conquer like specific towers, like the main towers of the opposing team. If you claim all of them, you win the point.
So it's more kind of like a capture the flag.
Yeah. I like that better.
Yeah, I think the mission place games are really good. It adds another level of strategy to it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and we just rolled that out with a couple of new maps with the last update last week. So
yeah, and your licensing model is an annual license, but all of these upgrades come included in the license fee.
The updates?
Yes.
I can't even believe we're doing this. So we are rolling out a major update with major content every quarter.
Okay.
For sure.
Yep.
Forever, I believe. And obviously, if you need to patch something, we do it in between with a little, patch update system. But every quarter, you can know we will give you another update with new content.
Yeah.
Whether it's be new maps, new optics, new sounds, new music, new game mode.
Yeah.
We're planning to release an app that tracks your rankings, the scores, everything. Keeps your players coming back because they want to, be a world champion.
I think for repeat play, that's really, that's an interesting thing. I'm not a big believer in apps because I understand how hard it is to get somebody to download and maintain an app.
Yeah.
And I think where apps do really well is it's something you use daily or at least a couple of times a week. And so it'll be really interesting to see what your experience is with that. I think a mobile website might have been a better choice.
Well, I mean, we'll work that way too. Obviously,
there's a lot of overhead with managing apps.
Here's the thing: we have like about a third of our licenses went to Asia last year.
Yep.
But more than half our players come from Asia, so they see they're playing a lot.
Yeah.
And
even weird games like Halo were working over there, right? So stuff works in Asia. Sorry, guys.
So that's where the app idea comes from for our partners in Asia. So, they're very experienced with that.
Yeah.
And when they think it's a good idea, I believe it's a good idea.
And so, do you have what's your think about tournaments? So, Virtuix has now launched this kind of regular tournament. There's a weekly tournament with their Omniverse VR arena, and then there's they're running these monthly Virtuix tournaments. Have you guys done anything in that realm yet, where you're launching and managing recurring tournaments?
So Tau Tech has a integrated, which is a third party. It's called Tournament. It's the same guys behind the tournament systems with League of Legends and other great esports games.
Yep.
Integrated it into Tau Tech. It's a little bit hidden for operators that really want to do it. And we've been running tournaments since day one.
But who's we? Because look, operators are busy, and them running their own tournaments. Like I watch it, it just doesn't happen enough. And so. What are the tournaments? What are you doing to support that?
We support operators that want to run their own leagues, or if you have 3 locations and you want your own local league, we support you doing that.
How do you do that?
Well, with the system, with setting it up, even managing it. If you want to stream it through VR Nerds Audience, you can do that too. We actually help you do it.
Yep.
And the other thing is we just launched a series of community events, which is like smaller tournaments, just to get it going. Just last month, and we're starting to do a bigger one in end of May. Okay. And we're planning to have a world championship by end of October.
Okay, and that'll be any location can opt in. How would a location opt into that world tournament thing?
So now we started doing the community events, right? These are pretty local, I'd say, right? In Germany, it went overboard a little bit, and we invited a couple other European countries in the second tournament. So when we start the real league in end of May, beginning June, date is not 100% set, but almost 85% set. Then we would just determine some teams that are dedicated to play a lot, and then we take the winners of each region and then bring them to a offline World Championship tournament.
Now, one of the challenges and we talked about this at the Amusement Expo last week around player versus player competitive games is leveling and balancing, right? And you have me go in, who's an expert, and you have Andre go in, who's a total noob. And I wipe the floor with him multiple times until he's crying. for mommy, and then how do you stop that from happening? Like, how do you build a platform that, or maybe you don't, like, because you had some really unique ideas that we didn't get to flesh out deeply in the panel we did. So let's talk about that a little bit.
I mean, well, how to start this. It's a hard thing to do. Matchmaking could be so easy, right? We could just do a handicap, like see how you play, have an eye, calculate it and see, like, give you a handicap, right?
Yep.
But is that fair to do? If you practice a lot, you come back every week, so you practice, you're your best.
But they do it in golf. They do it in golf. They do it in bowling. Like, there's handicap. They do it in a lot of sports, right?
Right. So, but that works different. That works on paper. In a game like this, the handicap would look like you have more HP than I have. Right. So I shoot you 10 times, you're still not eliminated.
And we did that in Laser Storm. We had a handicap system. This is going back in the mid 90s, and we, based on your level, you would get 1, 2, or 3 shields before you had to go back and re-energize. And you didn't get more points; you just got more shields.
Got it.
So, and that was something that we did, before anybody was even thinking about this shit, because it was all team based and it was really competitive. So, but that's just one theory. I'm not saying it's the right way to do it.
Yeah.
Your theory is let the people just play out
if we had to handicap some players, we would have more sneaky ways of doing it.
Yeah.
For example, you cannot see if my gun is always loaded, because if your gun is fully loaded, you can shoot full auto at a pretty high firing rate.
Okay.
If it's empty, it goes like one shot a second.
Okay.
But you can't tell how fast I emptied my clip. So if I have to handicap me, I would make my clip go empty quicker.
Gotcha.
So I can fire out.
And how do you reload?
It just comes back. Like, if you stop shooting, it's like overheating.
Got it. Yeah.
So I could play around with that, but I wouldn't opt for a shield or maximum health. Top it up with something. I would do some sneaky ways of handicapping. Yeah. Specifically you.
and actually, don't feel bad for Andre. He's really good at a lot of things that I suck at. So we can't be great at everything. So
not at Tower Tech though.
Yeah, don't play music trivia with Andre. Trivia at all with Andre.
Really?
Let me tell you that. He will wipe the floor with you in trivia. So we've had a lot of late night bar trivia stuff. And I don't know, marketing maybe.
Can you check what was that about ladder system or something?
I don't think tournaments can be hands-off and automated. It probably takes a community management mindset to make it work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sean, I would agree. This is why we started, and we use the term community event. We deeply go into the community and work with them, talk to everybody from operators to players. I'm personally involved in a dozen of WhatsApp groups, of local WhatsApp groups, where the players talk with each other when they want to practice, and I'm just there listening what they do. We talk to them on Discord too, on our Discord channel, our Tower Tech Discord channel, and we find out what they like and what works. And this is why we kept soon, because we wanted to see what the people really want first.
Yeah. So I want to go back. I just want to go back real quick and touch on this idea of a freestanding facility, because that's how laser tag started, was these freestanding, and then it went to bowling centers and FECs and stuff. And now there's not a lot of freestanding locations left in the laser tag business compared as a total percentage of install base. It's tiny. And so, can you so if you opened a 6-player tower tag location or an 8-player tower tag location, doing $10,000 a month, $120,000 a year, you pay for rent, labor, like I know the ROI is probably there, but it feels like a lot of work to do to generate what's probably going to wind up being a fairly minimum wage income on the bottom line once you cover your expense, just because there's not a lot of gross dollars.
Exactly.
Has anybody done a big one with 20 stations or something like that? Because the guys that I know
16.
doing 16.
It's dedicated booth space,
and
they have something else. I think it's racing seats.
But they have 16 tower tag booths that are dedicated. And where are they? What's their business like? Because that's fascinating to me. Can you say?
No.
Why not?
They're doing great. They started with 6 or 8, I believe. And they opted for more, and now. And
you can't say where they are?
They are in England.
Okay. All right.
I can tell you that for sure.
Okay.
I believe the next biggest are 12 and 8. But that's the biggest one with 16.
And we started out with we sold 12 on 12 laser tag systems, 24 players. We probably started, the smallest system was probably 12 players. Yeah. And so, you could do 12, but it's possible to run a business with more of those. Okay, cool. Yeah. Really interesting.
And also 10 grand is not a limit, right? you said like you can do more. It's like a third of what you can do, right?
Yeah.
It's just what we do with minimum effort.
Yeah.
Like we are not the proper operators that we should be. We make the game, we just do it, to showcase how easy it is to operate it.
Yeah.
But our clients, luckily do much more the good ones.
So last night we had a really interesting conversation about being an entrepreneur and some of the sacrifices that we make as entrepreneurs. I don't make anymore, but because I'm too old for that shit. But that you've made, as an entrepreneur, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs make. And you mentioned last night that you calculated your travel percentage for last year. And what was that? And talk about a little bit about what it's like how long have you been in business? How, and how big's the team, and how hard has it been to get to where you are right now?
So I've been away close to 100 days last year from my family, and it hurts to say that. It doesn't sound a lot when you say it's about like 35%. It doesn't sound a lot, but if you think you're away 100 days from your family, it is a lot.
And you have kids?
I have a son. He's 4, and last year was I tried to not travel for longer than a week.
Yeah. Like
in one travel.
Yeah.
And last year I did 3 weeks. After that he asked me. He told me, "Oh, you really came back to me." So I thought this little soul. He at one day must have thought that I'm probably not coming back, right?
Yeah.
When he's little, but that broke my heart. So I tried to keep it at a week tops. And then I've been in the United States last week. I flew home for 3 days. Yeah. I couldn't sleep for 2 nights because of jet lag, and then I came back here for another show, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I believe we had to do, and this is why we are deployed in 50 plus countries, because we, took the challenge. We traveled everywhere we had to go. One clever, smart person told me once, if you want to make it in the United States, you have to be here so often that people think you are local. So I did that. People don't believe I'm from Germany. They see me at every show, right?
Yeah.
And Asia is another thing. I traveled more even to Asia than I did to the United States. Very complicated to do that too, and also the other side of the world again. And
so, but just to touch on, because you called me out on some, I added a 0, I think, inadvertently
to
the number of locations. So what's the footprint look like now, and where is it going to be by the end of this year? You think?
I think where we mix it up is we're projected or we plan to open 3,000 by the end of this year,
and that's 3,000. Stations, whatever you call them.
Stations.
Yeah. Okay.
Not locations, but licenses. So to say. Right. And we are on track to reaching our goals, so to say. With a lot of amazing partnerships coming up very soon. I can't announce them yet. You're the first to hear it for sure. Probably some of it already. So we are definitely on track to doing that. I can't even understand how we did that.
Yeah. And so you've got this footprint around the world, and how big is the team that's developing it, supporting it? And you told me they're emailing you in the middle of the night, so you can't sleep when you're here. We started very, very small. We're a founding team of 5 at VR Nerds, but VR Nerds does like a lot of different things in VR. I used to say we're a little bit like Upload VR was. So we have media outlet, we do VR events, we have a co-working space specifically dedicated to VR things or XR. And when we started Tower Tag, it was a team of 3 working on it. And then we grew VR Nerds to a team of 16 total, with about half the people dedicated to VR, to Tower Tag, with everyone else like helping out whenever they needed into that project. And how long has it been? You said 2016?
VR Nerds? Yeah, well, we started in 13.
Okay.
And we went like professional.
And you launched Tower Tag when?
On May 2nd, 2018.
2018.
It's not even been a year.
It hasn't even been a year yet. And you're like, so at LaserStorm, over 8 years that I ran the company, I think we got to 230 locations. And you're going to probably hit that this year.
By end of the year, we're going to be in, maybe not 1,000 locations, but more than 500.
Yeah. So, so for those of you that ask about VR and is it real and is it happening, I touch back on, If I had $1, if I still had $1 for everybody that suggested laser tag was going to be a fad in the early 90s, I'd probably be rich. But it's it's still around, and it's still a thing, and it's still popular, and I think VR is growing at a much faster rate. Like, one of the things that's scary when I first got into it was, or when I started working with companies getting into it, is I figured there'd be a lot of competition similar to what there was with laser tag. When I went to IAP in '91, there were 2 companies. There was us and Qzar. It was called Quasar at the time, out of Ireland. And then within 3 years, there were 16 companies or something like that. Yeah. And now, within a couple of years in VR, there's hundreds of companies building solutions. Like, it's just been, and that's because the tools are so accessible, right?
Absolutely. And everyone telling you VR is dying, not at all. I don't get it. It's so strong and it's growing so fast still.
So Sean's asking about engine
and
Unity. It's in Unity?
It's Unity. My co-founding partner, Nico, who I told you guys that invented this laser lasso thing, he is self-taught in Unity, like YouTube tutorials self-taught.
Yeah.
He's from a designing background, 3D designing background, motion designer. He's self-taught in Unity, slapped it together with this. So I call it YouTube tutorial skills.
Yeah.
Sorry, man. I know we all know you're good, but self-taught good. So he started it, and then at one point we had to hire real developers to take it from there. We haven't been funded with outside money. It's all self-funded.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So by the way, some of the best engineers I've ever worked with was self-taught. But I will say, did you have a game designer, somebody with a game design background and title?
No, not at all.
So one of the things that I see is a lot of people coming into this market have 3D backgrounds, and they build beautiful environments, but they don't know crap about actually designing games and core loops and game mechanics. How did you wind up building a game that was so addictive without actually having a game designer? And if you're like, listen to this answer, hopefully it's insightful. I don't know what it's going to be, but.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Just got lucky.
No, you know what? I don't think we didn't tackle this challenge, and we didn't see it as a game designing challenge. We try to, come up with a nice experience, and we just see VR as our tool delivering the experience.
Yeah.
We didn't have this mindset of creating a computer game really, but a overall experience.
My guess is your background in laser tag and paintball.
Well, when you played it first, you realize in the first second, whoever did that had a background in that field, right? Yeah. And that's correct. And it was this, myself, the co-founder, and the other guys, and then my old background from paintball and laser tag, all that slapped together. And well, actually, I wanted to have a big experience like the Void in 2013, 14. We couldn't do it. The technology wasn't there. We didn't have the money. So we had to find a smaller footprint solution that we could actually do.
Yeah.
And this is how we came up with a small footprint.
Yeah. And I'll say laser tag, like I didn't know anything about game design or core loop, but we just iterated around game modes, and we watched people play and what did they like, and we came up with this divided arena that you still never see. No one's replicated for some reason.
Yeah.
But there's 20 years after I shut the company down, there's still 100 locations operating somehow, which is amazing, and thanks to a community that kept it alive.
Yeah.
But sometimes just playing and watching can get you there. So Timothy's asking about where VR is in the Gartner hype cycle, and I think that what's your thought on that?
I think you can't find it on it because people are torn about it where we're at, right? And I'm torn myself, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I think you can't replicate it. You can't really put it on there because there's too many different things on it. That's what I just said. Well, we don't think about, when we talk about Tower Tech, I don't think about it as a VR game. I think it's a out-of-home entertainment attraction using VR as a tool, as a medium.
Yeah. So I just wrote an article for Replay, which I really haven't posted. I should get it out there. Which posits that VR is really just a display technology, right? It's just the next version of display, and it just tends to be really immersive. And eventually, just like we went from CRT, for those of you young kids out there that don't remember cathode ray tubes, to flat panels. Plasma was here for a while, but then it went to LCD, and that was about going and big screens, right? So we went from CRT to big screen, which was about immersion. So immersion, it was big. You could get close to it in arcade games, right? There was games like Alpine Racer, Prop Cycle, Time Crisis, House of the Dead.
Great times.
And they used rear projection, these big screens, 15 screens. You were close to it. and you felt more immersed. And then all of those migrated over a period of time to LCD because it was more efficient. And now we're going back into a deep immersion cycle, which is with VR, and then there'll be, and then VR will grow in efficiency, and then I don't know what goes beyond that.
That's two very small implants, right?
Yeah, neural implants or something like that will be the next one. But
exactly.
I think that on the Gartner hype cycle, first of all, I really took a concept called macromyopia, which was around back in the 90s, put their name on it, and now own it, and it pisses me off. But it's I think you have to look at the consumer side and the enterprise side separately too. I think as a consumer product, it's absolutely past the trough of disillusionment, and now probably on the slope of enlightenment, whatever they want to call it. I think in a commercial standpoint, I think the enterprise stuff, I mean, VR is penetrating in massive ways, and you're seeing it ramp up in things like PTSD treatment, like physical therapy, training, all kinds of things. Like it's getting, and it's growing really, really rapidly. And so, and if you think about smartphones, right? Like think about where this came from. Go back to the BlackBerry, and the BlackBerry pager, right? Where people did email, and what happened is that created this consumer mindset, and it was a business tool. Nobody had a BlackBerry for personal use. It was you might have.
I had to have it.
Whatever.
But
you're the only one. And so what happened is you got used to using email, which was internet, away from your computer, and that created this consumer expectation that I should be able to get other things on the internet away from my computer. And then Windows Phone tried to give you a shitty browsing experience, and ultimately the iPhone came with a great browser, and that's what created the smartphone revolution. But it started with the BlackBerry and consumer perception that I should be able to get access to stuff on the internet away from my computer. And so VR in business and LBE and all of these other things are creating this expectation that I should be able to be immersed in these. And it's not just VR, it's projection mapping, it's AR, it's all of these R technologies. We had a dinner last night at this this restaurant where it was like all projection mapped on the table, and it was really cool. And so the fact of being immersed is creating this massive expectation of the consumer market. And that's what's going to grow VR as a consumer product at some point, when somebody creates an app or a use case that people need. And that's the part that's missing. There's no reason to have VR as a consumer market.
And even though I'm working in VR and it's my passion, like I love it to death, man. I'm super nerdy about VR.
Yeah.
I would say, if you look at market penetration, AR is maybe the thing you want to look at.
Yeah.
I tend to say VR, whatever on a display is going to be in the end, untethered, whatever. It's more like having a console.
Yeah.
But AR is going to be the next smartphone, the everyday use for every person.
Yeah.
And do you have a gaming console?
Yeah.
Do you have one?
I have
Not
one.
everyone has one, right?
I think everybody has
one.
There's 90 million PlayStation
4s.
90
out of
million PlayStation 4s.
Right. How many?
Out of how many households? It's not people, it's households.
Yeah.
Right. And so I don't know. That's a fuck of a lot of PlayStation.
Yeah.
And that's not including Xbox.
Doubles in the last
and that's not
3 years.
including Switch. And that's not including like all the other platforms.
What interesting is they doubled in the last 3 years. It was 40 million or 45 million just 3 years ago.
And they've sold 4 million PlayStation VRs that nobody uses. Like that's the dirty little secret, is they talk about how many they've sold. Nobody uses them.
Anyone.
Nobody uses them.
That's true.
Nobody uses them. They buy them, they try them, because there's no great game. So look, in 6DOF, all-in-one headsets, $399 price point. I posted an article recently that you should look at in my mentoring group if you're not there, and I'm sure you guys are all there. And you should read that article about statistics and the market data saying that $399 is that max price point. So you're seeing Oculus come out with these new headsets that really make massive sacrifices on either model to get to that $399 price point, which they believe is going to drive consumer adoption. But what's missing is the killer game app or the killer apps that sell the console. My friend Brent Bushnell from 2-Bit Circus says that that the consoles are a tax on the game. People don't buy the console; they bought an Xbox to play Halo.
Sure.
And so we don't yet have the game that people are willing to pay a $400 tax on to buy a headset.
I believe the same. Yeah.
And so maybe that'll be Tower Tag. You're gonna have a consumer version at some point.
Well, we're avoiding it for now because we deeply believe in location-based entertainment, and we believe that we are at the exact same point with VR at the moment that the internet has been before.
Yeah.
For example, right? when esports was invented, when Counter-Strike was invented like 19 years ago, I believe. No one played it at home. Everyone went to like internet cafes, LAN gaming centers, and played it there, right? Yeah. And I believe this is what we do now with location-based VR centers. And man, it took a while to come from these LAN centers to in-home use throughout the market.
And I don't think the consumer market really is going to take off as a hardcore gaming until 5G comes and you can get really high resolution, totally mobile. And we're still 3 to 5 years away from that.
We're all good to go for location-based VR for a couple more years.
And then hopefully by then the infrastructure is in place to do tournaments and competitions and things that you can do out of home that you can't do in home. And I think your game's going to be a big part of that.
And until then, we'll keep TowerTech location-based exclusive. Yep. So we don't offer it on Steam or somewhere for home entertainment. So our clients can be sure that people won't use it there once.
So you can't get it. You can't get all you can eat $9.99 from fucking Vive. Recard, dude. Fuck you, man. That was just a shit move.
That was shitty, man.
For the whole, you created this whole ecosystem of VR arcades. And now just did a massive bait and switch, which I called, by the way. I wrote a white paper in 2016, and I'll republish it if you guys want to see it. But
someone had to do it.
Somebody had to do it.
Somebody had to do it. Someone needed to be the Netflix. It was a clear path.
Yeah, cool.
Well, I mean, very easily, let me Google it for you. No, you know what? You guys should stay in his group, Bob's mentoring group. Follow the VR Arcade Owners group on Facebook.
Yep.
And then find us on Discord too. We're very active on Discord. Like all our team is on Discord. And replying to all your questions. You can call us on Discord if we have any questions. I think Discord is the best place to find us.
Discord, awesome. Yeah. I think you might be one of the few people running a Discord group.
It's like real-time reaction, right? Yeah. You can see, this guy's online, whether it's me or one of my colleagues on my team. Yeah. And you see he's there, just ping him, and you'll get your answers.
Cool, awesome. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me, man.
And we'll see where we're going to see you next. Where can people are you coming up? Are you doing any demos? Any big events coming up? Are you going to go home and spend some time with your kids? Or what's coming up for you?
Well, not. We're going to be at all the major events, the known VR events throughout the States, but also in Asia. Guys, check in with this group. You will see. We'll announce very soon, like in the next week or two, about some big events.
Awesome. And, looking forward to it. All right, brother.
Thanks.
I love what you've done. Keep it up. Get some sleep. Go spend some time with your family, because when this is all over, none of this shit matters.
Yeah, well, they still have to be there, right?
None of it matters. And I'll just tell you a quick story. This was a hard lesson that I learned. So when I traveled a lot, obviously entrepreneur, tried to be home for the key events. And one year when my middle son was in his early teens, I was going to miss his birthday. And I believe it was the only time I missed any of their birthdays or any of those big events, school plays I went to and stuff like that. At least that's the story I told myself to feel better, right?
Yeah.
And he said to me, I said, I'm going to miss your birthday this year, Brendan, but we'll make it up to you. We'll do something on the weekend or whatever. And he looked at me and he said, that's okay, Dad. I'm used to it.
Oh shit!
And that was one that was a real away. It was a heartbreaker, but it also realized that we do the best we can.
Yeah, that's true.
And no matter how hard we try, our kids are going to feel like we let them down, and that's part of being human. And
I missed both the early birthdays of my son due to the traveling. I missed my wife's round birthday. That was like the last 2 years, but this year I changed. I'm home for all the events now.
The moral of the story is do the best you can, and it doesn't matter because it's never going to be good enough.
Well, hey, still do the best you can, guys.
All right, brother. All right, see you later. Take care. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week. I think next week, Lynn from Periscape, who's running VR at Kennedy Airport. Terminal 4, Delta Terminal. She's been running VR there for over a year, and she's crushing it. And she was on a panel at Amusement Expo called VR Everywhere. And so we're going to be talking about where could we put VR besides arcades.
Introduce me.
Might be interesting. You know her, don't you?
I don't.
Okay. Yeah. All right. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Thanks for joining.
That's awesome. You got this. Exactly an hour.